Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called on the world leaders to find some common ground on divisive issues as he inaugurated a foreign ministerial meeting of the G20 grouping, where Russia's year-long war in Ukraine is presently taking centre stage. At the start of the foreign ministers' meeting, leaders also observed a minute's silence for those who lost their lives in the earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria. The meeting is being attended by 40 delegations, including those that have been headed by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, the American Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and also the newly appointed Chinese Foreign Minister. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said that it is now up to Russia to make a move towards peace in Ukraine, and Moscow must withdraw its troops. They're speaking alongside the visiting Latvian Prime Minister Krišjānis Kariņš. Scholz told the reporters that if attacked, NATO would defend every single square centimetre of its territory. Kariņš also said that Latvia strongly feels that Ukraine should move in NATO's direction. He also further added that the war could of course continue for many years to come, where we'll have to readapt our military industry to be able to set up to a much bigger challenge. Now, in a state's visit to Beijing, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko told his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping that his country fully supports Beijing's proposal for ending the war in Ukraine. Lukashenko also said that the meeting was taking place in a very complicated time and it was necessary to prevent an uncontrolled descent into global confrontation, which has no winners whatsoever. According to state media, the two heads of the state also signed a joint statement firming up further development of an all-weather and comprehensive strategic partnership between the two nations. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov held bilateral talks with his Indian counterpart S. Jaishankar ahead of the G20 foreign ministers meeting in New Delhi. Now, India has so far kept a largely neutral stance on Russia's invasion of Ukraine and has also declined to lay the blame on Moscow for the invasion. According to a Russian official, Sergei Lavrov assessed the current security situation in the context of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and said that he hopes that this meeting of the foreign ministers can hopefully iron out many of the issues that are, of course, plaguing the world. He also spoke about the use of local currencies for settling trade during his hour-long meeting with S. Jaishankar. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrapped up a brief tour of Central Asia in Uzbekistan before heading to India for the foreign ministers' G20 meet. Blinken in fact met with the senior Uzbek officials just a day after warning his counterparts from all 5 Central Asian nations about the dangers posed by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Blinken's visit to Uzbekistan came 8 months after 21 people were killed in the disturbances over plans to curtail the autonomy of the region of Kyrgyzstan. China has dismissed the US speculation that the COVID-19 pandemic originated from a lab leak in Wuhan, responding to the comments from the FBI's Director Christopher Wray. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said that the involvement of US intelligence community was evidence enough of the politicization of origin tracing. The Mao Ning further stated, by rehashing the lab leak theory, the United States will not succeed in discrediting China, and instead it is only going to hurt its own credibility by making these allegations. Now remember, FBI's Director Christopher Wray had earlier stated that the coronavirus pandemic most likely originated due to a lab leak in the city of Wuhan. The Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich's call for a Palestinian village to be erased off the map has been condemned by the American State Department spokesperson Ned Price, who now stated that these comments that are being made by the Israeli minister, sitting minister, are simply repugnant and that they were disgusting. And ultra-nationalists in Netanyahu's right-wing coalition Smotrich made these remarks after hundreds of these Israeli illegal settlers attacked a Palestinian town called Huwara in the northern West Bank, in which at least one Palestinian was killed. At least about 100 Palestinian homes were torched by these illegal Israeli settlers. The Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh visited the village of Huwara in the occupied West Bank after these illegal Israeli settlers went on a rampage and attacked Palestinian families in the area. The Israeli police have arrested 5 suspects over a settler rampage in the occupied West Bank earlier in the week. And this comes after an Israeli general described this attack as nothing short of a pogrom that was perpetrated on the Palestinian people, which followed a deadly Palestinian gun attack. The shops in the Palestinian village of Huwara remained shut on army orders amidst heavy Israeli military presence. The Israeli police said that they expect to make more arrests during their ongoing investigation into the Israeli settler violence in and around the Palestinian town of Huwara. And tens of thousands of Israelis rallied nationwide for the 7th straight week to protest against the judicial changes that the far-right government of Benjamin Netanyahu intends to bring about in Tel Aviv. Police on horseback confronted the demonstrators as traffic piled up. A crowd marched through central Tel Aviv, with many of them waving Israeli flags and also chanting democracy. This comes just days before the parliament is due to vote on the controversial legal changes that are being put forth by the government. The proposed overhaul is being pushed by the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu's right-wing government. And this, of course, will allow the executive to overrule Supreme Court decisions with a simple majority and boosts the executive's control over judicial appointments. The protests have erupted outside of schools in Tehran and also in a town called Ardabil. People were sloganeering against their supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. This after at least about 100 students were hospitalized for alleged poisoning at multiple girls' schools in at least about 3 cities. The President Ibrahim Raisi's website has stated that Wahidi, the current interior minister, has been appointed in an effort to try and allay the concerns of the families of the students who have been affected. The Interior Minister also debunked reports of security forces who have detained 3 people for suspected poisoning. The Spanish police, meanwhile, have arrested one of Europol's most wanted fugitives in Murcia, southeastern Spain. The Dutch authorities had offered a reward of at least about 10,000 euros for the arrest. The fugitive had escaped from prison in the Netherlands, where he was serving a prison sentence for 5 years and 6 months in a psychiatric hospital for 2 robberies. In one of the robberies, he and his accomplices had in fact used such a degree of violence that one of the victims, a shopkeeper, had died as a result of the attack. And Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis has condoled the deaths in a Greek train tragedy in which 43 people were killed. Many of the victims are believed to be university students who were on their way back from a long holiday weekend. The death toll is now expected to rise further. Cranes lifted the derailed passengers' carriages in the morning as rescuers continued to scour through the smouldering, mangled mass of steel. The one carriage, in fact, stood on its side at almost about 90 degrees from the rest of the wrecked train, with others tilting pretty precariously. And Denmark's parliament has passed a much-debated bill that has been put forward by the new government to scrap a public holiday to help finance the increased defence spending. The newly formed government, which has proposed sweeping reforms aimed at overcoming challenges to the country's welfare model, has said that the move will in fact help raise tax revenues for higher defence spending in the wake of the Ukraine war. However, the labour unions have also protested a plan to abolish the Great Prayer Day, which is a Christian holiday that falls on the fourth Friday after Easter and dates back to 1686. At least about a dozen Tibetan exiles protested the Chinese foreign minister's visit to India, and they were detained outside of the Chinese embassy in New Delhi. The small group of protesters from the Tibetan Youth Congress, carrying Tibetan flags and also shouting slogans such as Free Tibet and Go Back Xinjiang, tried to enter into the high-security complex. The protest comes as the Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Yang arrived in India this week for the G20 foreign ministers meeting.
Chinese government has put 1 million Tibetans.
Now, Vo Van Thiong has been elected as Vietnam's new president, and this comes after the sudden forced resignation in January of his predecessor as part of sweeping anti-corruption campaign. The 52-year-old Thuong is said to be the youngest member of the party's Politburo, the country's top decision-making body, and is widely regarded as being very close to General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong, the Vietnam's most powerful figure. And thousands of workers in Sri Lanka staged a one-day strike to protest against massive increases of taxes and electricity rates by the government. Nearly about 2,000 workers held a demonstration outside of a port during their lunch break in the commercial capital Colombo. Most banks across the country were also closed for the day, and parts of a hospital were closed as other unions participated in the strike. And rescue teams found a Bolivian man who had been lost in the jungle for nearly about a month. Jonathan Acosta, a 30-year-old cacao farmer, got lost in the Boaras Beni jungle in January, where he had gone hunting with his friends. After being rescued, Acosta was transferred to a hospital where he had received some medical assistance. And according to local media, Acosta lost nearly about 17 kilograms. The man told local media that he had eaten insects and worms to survive. And it was simply unbelievable for him that people were still looking out for him after all this time. And passengers were left stranded in Buenos Aires as trains and subways presented delays for suspension after a massive blackout in Argentina, at least in about 2 train stations in the city of Buenos Aires. The massive lines of stranded passengers waited for options to reach their destination due to the interrupted service. And according to officials, large swathes of Argentina were left without power after blackouts in the national grid due to fire. And this comes as the country is enduring a major heat wave that has increased energy demand. A firefighter died inside of a burning building in downtown Buffalo in New York after apparently becoming trapped by falling debris from a blaze that led to an explosion that sent flames and smoke into the street. Firefighters were thrown to the ground by an explosion while battling a large 4-alarm fire in the city's theater district. And according to officials, the Buffalo Fire Department are presently investigating a report that workers had been seen with torches near the building which was being renovated. In Norway, environmental campaigner Greta Thunberg and dozens of other activists protested against the wind farms built on indigenous land. Norwegian police removed environmental campaigner Greta Thunberg along with other protesters as they blocked access to Norwegian ministries. They were later released. The Malin Amador is a Cuban breeder and stylist of one of the most attractive dog breeds in Cuba. The Havanese, which is said to be some kind of a small, vigorous dog with abundant, long and wavy hair, is considered to be the national dog of the Caribbean island. Over 1,400 of Bichons are currently registered with the club, a breed that abounded before Fidel Castro's revolution in 1959. The Havanese type can now be found in Argentina, Canada, Mexico and the United States. And negotiations between the Cuban Canine Federation and the International Cynological Federation led in 2016 to the recognition of the breed as officially Cuban. A spectacular display of the northern lights in the sky over Alaska was seen in a video recorded by a local witness. The video posted on social media showed footage from the time-lapse camera in the early hours of Monday. Real-time video filmed by the photographer on Sunday captured a rare red pulse. And according to the United Kingdom's Met Department, the northern lights, or the aurora borealis as it is known, occur because of solar activity when charged particles in the solar wind collide with molecules in the Earth's upper atmosphere. An Australian indigenous group stepped up its campaign against industrial development at the Burrup Peninsula in Western Australia, alleging that the project's plan in the region would damage millions of ancient rock formations. The Australian Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek has appointed an investigator to assess the impact of industrial development in response to an application from two indigenous women representing the group called Save Our Songlines. Now, the Burrup Peninsula already houses several industrial plants but also holds more than 1 million rock carvings in the Murujuga National Park, some more than 40,000 years old, which have been nominated for a UNESCO World Heritage listing. Researchers have found a long list of Great Lakes ships that came to a tragic end in 1894. The 191-foot cargo vessel collided with a grain hauler on a blustery, sinking both of these ships. The Iron Ton's captain and also the 6 sailors clambered into a lifeboat, but it was dragged to the bottom before they could detach it from the ship. Only 2 crewmen managed to survive the shipwreck, and officials with Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary in Alpena, Michigan, have said that the mystery still remains unresolved. A team of historians, underwater archaeologists and technicians located the wreckage in 2019 and deployed remotely controlled cameras to scan and document what really happened all those years back. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.